Springland Gardens, quality homes for a lifetime of happiness. Homes starting at 1.8 million with 3 ensuite bedrooms, fully air-conditioned, partially furnished. Find us on Facebook or Instagram or call us at 1-868-792-1155.
Villa Santosh, 3 en-suite bedroom villa in Silver Palms, Tobago, fully air-conditioned, indoor and outdoor cooking, secured parking, pool. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, or call or WhatsApp 1-868-327-0357.
Kuldevalaya Pitritirtha, a shrine for our ancestors.
माँ तेरी ममता कितनी प्यारी, कितना प्यार जगाती है, कितना प्यार जगाती है। माँ तेरी ममता कितनी प्यारी, कितना प्यार जगाती है, कितना प्यार जगाती है। श्वास श्वास की रक्षा करती, श्वास श्वास की रक्षा करती, पग पग प्राण बचाती है, कितना प्यार जगाती है। माँ तेरी ममता कितनी प्यारी, कितना प्यार जगाती है, कितना प्यार जगाती है। तू ऋषियों की रिद्धि सिद्धि, तू ब्रह्मा की भक्ति माँ, तू विष्णु की माया देवी, तू शंकर की शक्ति माँ। तू ऋषियों की रिद्धि सिद्धि, तू ब्रह्मा की भक्ति माँ, तू विष्णु की माया देवी, तू शंकर की शक्ति माँ। तू हाथों से भाग जगाती, भागी भागी आती है, कितना प्यार जगाती है। माँ तेरी ममता कितनी प्यारी, कितना प्यार जगाती है, कितना प्यार जगाती है। काली महाकाली दुर्गा, तू है भवानी माँ, तू पुराण का तार शारदा, तू वेदों की वाणी है। तू काली महाकाली दुर्गा, तू है भवानी माँ, तू पुराण का तार शारदा, तू वेदों की वाणी है। तू बालक को भोर मिले कर जीवन गीत सुनाती है, कितना प्यार जगाती है।
Namaste, Sitaram. Assalamu alaikum. Good evening. brothers and sisters. Let me first, on behalf of the Management Committee of the Atmagyan Mandir, extend to each and every one of you a special welcome, I would say, to this our temple here in the community of St. John Trace. But more than that, we want to embrace your presence, and we want to include you this afternoon in every aspect of what we would perhaps engage in the next hour and a half or so. Your invitation would have indicated that our brother Suruj is celebrating his 75th birthday. And of course, it's a momentous time. It's more than a milestone, if we may say. But those of us who have associated with Suruj over the years, I do not have to say it again, but he's a man of many, wearing many hats, walking many a corridor. But most significantly, I would say that despite all of this, over his years, I think his religious life, knowing him to be the friend that he is and the closeness that we share, not only in terms of myself, but all the other members of our group, some who are present with us today, some who have migrated and so on, but Suruj has left an indelible impression over these years. And if I may say that this is our 58th year of the existence of the Saraswati Kirtan Mandali. And as God would will, as one would say, I think that we may say that many of us are in the departure lounge, taking the words of Suruj. But my advice to all of us, when you are blessed with such a gift that is incomparable, then one has to define, identify, and cherish this wonderful gift of life. And so it's a call to action, it's a call for reflection and introspection, as one would say, as to how do we value ourselves having attained this gift and having been blessed with this wonderful body of ours. So that it would not take much time again, but to say a special welcome on behalf of the Atma Management Committee of the Atmagyan Mandir. And of course, I would hand over now to Ranjana, who will take you through the rest of the program. Ranju?
Namaste, Sai Ram. We are happy to welcome everyone to the first night of 2 nights in celebration of Dad's 75th birthday. As you may know, and you may have noticed over the years, at all times when Dad has a major milestone, whether it be a celebration of life or overcoming of a challenge, we always return to Avocat, his home village. And 95% of those times, we are at Atmagyan Mandir with Uncle Booja and Auntie Oma. In this tradition, we therefore find ourselves again here after the last celebration in 2019. Avocat has now, years later, in a strange way, become a second home for us with Dad's development and growth of Springland Gardens, premier housing development in Avocat boasting of top-tier homes and amenities. Just a small plug. The theme of the next 2 nights of lectures to be delivered by my uncle, Professor Anantanand Rambachan, is titled, What Would Sri Ram Do? Uncle Anand is no stranger to this community. He has been involved in interreligious relations and dialogue for over 25 years as a Hindu contributor and analyst. He's active in the dialogue programs of the World Council of Churches and was a Hindu guest and a presenter in 4 general assemblies of the World Council of Churches. He is also involved in the consultations of the Pontifical Council for Interreligious Dialogue at the Vatican, and currently participates as a Hindu theologian in Ethics in Action Dialogues at the Pontifical Academy of Sciences. He also serves as president of the board of Arigato International New York, a global organization which advocates for the rights of children and mobilizing the resources of religions to overcome violence against children. I will now hand over to Uncle Anand to commence tonight's proceedings, because I know he really does not like when I do a long profile of him.
Let me take this opportunity to add my words of welcome to each and everyone coming to share this wonderful evening with us, an evening of gratitude, an evening of thanks. But before Anand commences, I want to share a little story with you. My sister-in-law Geeta and me share the same month of birth. And on her birthday, my mother passed away. And on my birthday, we cremated her at the Shore of Peace. Almost as if she was trying to say to us, "You will never forget me on your birthday." And it's a very moving couple of days there for all of us. And I'm sure particularly for Geeta and for myself and my family, because my mother was a tremendously dedicated person and gave her life for her family. Her life, I would say, for her family. Ajam nirvikalpam nirakaramekam niranandamanandamadvaitapurnam param nirgunam nirvishesham niriham parabrahmarupam Ganesham bhajema parabrahmarupam Ganesham bhajema akhanda mandalakaram vyaptam yena characharam tatpadam darshitam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Gurur Brahma Gurudeva Maheshwara Gurur Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Chidanandarupa Shivoham Shivoham Chidanandarupa Shivoham Shivoham Mano Buddhi Hankar Chichitanninaham Srotra jive nacha grananedra nacha vyoma bhuvir natejo navayo chidanandarupa shivoham shivoham chidanandarupa shivoham Shivoham नैव मे नैव मात्सर्यभाव न धर्मो न चार्थो न कामो न मोक्ष चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं न पुण्यं न पापं न सौख्यं न दुःखं न मन्त्रो न तीर्थो न वेदो न यज्ञः अहं भोजनं नैव भोज्यं न भोक्ता चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं न मे मृत्युशङ्का न मे जातिभेद पिता नैव मे नैव माता न जन्म न बन्धुर्न मित्रं गुरुर्नैव शिष्यः चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम् अहं निर्विकल्पं निराकाररूपो विभुर्वाच्य सर्वत्र सर्वेन्द्रियाणां न चासङ्गतं नैव मुक्तिर्न मेय चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम् Sitaram, my dear sisters and brothers, namaste and welcome to our satsang this evening to celebrate Suruj's 75th birthday. My wife Geeta and I are delighted to be here with all of you. As Suruj said in his opening words, this is an event for gratitude. All birthdays are occasions for gratitude. For us to say how much we value and how much we appreciate his life and his gifts, and for him also to express his own indebtedness, his own appreciation for this village where we all grew up, where we were educated not far from here at Avukat Vedic School. This is where some of our earliest memories, our roots are. So this community, we're grateful to this community. And Suruj also mentioned family and the significance of family. His birthday is an occasion tonight and tomorrow, not to focus on what he has not done and what he does not yet have, but to celebrate everything that he is and everything that he has accomplished. And most important, as he acknowledged, to celebrate the relationships, the family relationships, the community relationships, the relationships of friends,
that mean so much to us. So I'm very happy to be here. I'm so delighted to see some of you that I have not seen for such a long time, members of our family. Oka and Ralph are here with us. They come from my Aji's side of our family, a long extended family of the Sipol Mirage, and we are very grateful that you are here tonight to remind us of the legacy of that extended wing of our family. And as far as friends are concerned, I can mention so many of you, but I'm very happy to see the Sajivans here tonight. I'm saying so because your dad, when I came from India from 1975, I met him for the first time. And he was a very constant, unwavering presence. Everywhere we would lecture and everywhere we had satsang. So we remember him, and I'm very grateful that you're here and that your mom is here as well with you. We have a very beautiful word in our Hindu tradition for gratitude. And that word is, there are actually two words that are joined together that express gratitude. It's upakara smaranam. Upakara smaranam. Smaranam is to remember. And upakara is what you have received from another. Upkar is what you have received, what another has given to you. Smaranam is to remember that. So when you remember what you have received, upakara smaranam, that condition is called gratitude. And the opposite of it is upakara vismaranam, forgetting. Sometimes intentionally forgetting what you have received from others, what others have given to you. So tonight, upakara smaranam, we remember what we have all received. Gratitude is true. It is satyam. Ingratitude is false. It is asatyam. Why? Because we are all receivers. Sometimes we boast, I mention this often, people speak of themselves as self-made persons. But nobody is self-made. Everybody is who he or she is, certainly because of his or her labors and hard work, but not alone, but because we are the recipients of the gifts and the generosity of others. And this is, the Hindu tradition says that we are all, from the very moment you are born, we are born into debt, D-E-B-T. We are indebted beings. It's called in Sanskrit the rinam. Every living being is a being indebted. And so we should live our lives in acknowledgement of that. Because we are the recipients of generosity, we must also become generous. I did not discuss with Suruj what I would speak about tonight or even tomorrow night, and actually he never asked me. But it so happened that he opened his own remarks with a focus on family. And tonight I want to actually speak on family values with a few examples from the Ramayana of Tulsidas. The Ramayana can be read in many ways. We can read this great text as detailing an ongoing struggle in our world between good and evil. A text that gives us some hope, even when we doubt that good will ultimately triumph, but it's not an easy struggle. We may read it as telling us about the life of a royal family, the life of a king in ancient India, his or her challenges, his or her duties, his or her responsibilities. For Tulsidas, the author of Ramcharitmanas, the Ramayana is the life story of Ram. It is the Manas, the lake, Ramcharit, filled with the actions of Ram. So he calls it Ramcharitmanas, the great lake filled with everything that Ram does or did. These are not contradictory ways of reading the text. One can enter the text as one enters a lake at many different spots, in many different ways. We can also look to this text, as I want to do a little bit tonight, to what it tells us about family well-being, the health of family life. Because as we know in our society and in so many other places, the breakdown of families has grave consequences, not only for the families, but for communities, for nations. So that what can we learn from this text, from the examples in this text, to help us in whatever roles as grandparents, as parents, as uncles, as aunts, as cousins, to create healthy families. Traditionally, and perhaps still by and large today, the basis of family life is the fact of having common parents. Parents may be biological, but not only. Parents can also be adoptive parents, the parents of adopted children. But having common parents is usually the starting point, but never sufficient for what a healthy family means. In other words, biology is not enough. It may be the starting point. To be the parents of children, to give birth to children, is often where our understanding of family starts. But it is not enough, something more. And it's also true with adoption. So after birth or after adoption, that's where the building of a family, the work of building a family really begins. Because there is no guarantee that a healthy family follows simply from the fact of biology, or else we will not have any problems. If biology answered everything that a good family means. So what are those values? So as I said, I want to turn to the Ramayana, and we can only look at a few examples tonight. So, if I had a choice, I'll probably speak for 20 minutes, and that would be enough for what I want to say. But if I tell my friends, that when I come to the Hindu temple, they expect me, if I speak for 20 minutes, everybody will say he said nothing. So I must speak for at least, 45 minutes to convince my Hindu brothers and sisters that I have to say something meaningful. And I don't sing, so I have to really speak. So I want to start. So I want you all to be relaxed, and let us, just have a good conversation about family life in the Ramayana. And I want to start with the return of Ram to Ayodhya after his marriage to Sita in Mithila. So when he came, and all of this is familiar to you, the city was full of joy for his return. And because all four brothers went together, and everyone had a single thought in mind, a single prayer in heart, that Dasaratha would appoint Ram. He would announce that Ram would be his successor. And of course, coincidentally, Dasaratha himself was also thinking in the same way. He was aware of growing old, and he wanted also to make proper arrangements for his succession, before he passed away. So he called, as the tradition, he called his family priest, Vashishta, and informed him of his decision to appoint Ram as king. And he requested him to make all the arrangements for the coronation. But before doing so, he instructed Vashishta to inform Ram of his decision. So when Vashishta arrived at Ram's apartment in the palace compound, Ram was very surprised because it is not customary for his guru to come to his place. He would normally go to his guru. So he was quite surprised, but Vashishta immediately told him that Dasarat has made his announcement that you would be his successor. Please prepare yourself for the coronation ceremony. It was a very brief encounter between Vashishta and Ram, just a few sentences. Now, here is a young man who has just heard this tremendous news that he would be the king of one of the wealthiest kingdoms in North India, the kingdom of Ayodhya. He is his father's chosen successor. What would we expect from him after he hears this news? How does a political leader respond when he or she learns that she or he will become president or he'll become prime minister? What is the typical response? Tulsidas says, very interesting, he says, Rama Hridaya Asa Bismaya Bhayahu. Ram Hridaya, the heart. Ram's heart, Ram Hridaya Asa, in his heart, Asa Hridaya, in his heart, Bismaya Bhayahu. He felt a great fear. Bhaya. His heart was filled with fear when he heard from his guru that he is going to be the king of Ayodhya. So you would think, why would Ram be fearful? Why would his heart tremble in fear? So if you're going to assume a leadership position, perhaps you might think, well, it's normal. He's probably worried about assuming all of these responsibilities, such sudden responsibilities thrust upon him, and he's fearful about his ability to carry the burdens of being the king of Ayodhya. In other words, he might be thinking, am I prepared for this? Am I ready? Will I succeed? Will I fail? All of these would be good reasons for a leader to be fearful, for the heart, as Tulsidas says, for the heart to tremble in fear. But this is not why he was afraid, at least not in Ramayana. His fear did not have its roots in concerns about his ability to be a successful king, a successful leader in Ayodhya. Here is what Tulsidas tells us, why Ram was afraid. What were the roots of his fear, the trembling in his heart. जन्मे एक संग सब भाई भोजन शयन खेली लरिकाई जन्म एक संग सब भाई भोजन कयन खेली लरिकाई
करण वेद उपवीत बियाहा करण वेद उपवीत विवाहा संग संग सब भय उचाहा श्री राम जय 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 राम श्री राम 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 जय जय राम विमल वंश येहु अनुचित एकु बंधु विवाही बरेउ अभिषेकु प्रभु सप्रेम पछितानि सुहाई प्रभु सप्रेम पछितानि सुहाई करहु भगत मन के खुतिलाई श्री राम जय जय राम 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 जय राम श्री राम जय राम. So what is the source of his fear, the trembling in his heart? It is such a fascinating glimpse that Tulsidas gives us. However you receive it, this is what Tulsidas says was at the root of Ram's fear. Janme ek sanga sab bhai. So there were 4 brothers. And he says, this is what he sort of gives into Ram's stream of consciousness, as we say. Janme ek. We were born together. The 4 brothers, we were born together. Janme ek. We had a single birth, close in time, at least born on the same day. Bhojana shayana ke lilarikai. And we never ate a meal separately. We ate together. Bhojana. We slept side by side. Bhojana shayana ke lilarikai. And we played, not separately, we played together. Vimala vamsa yehu anuchita eku. Unfortunately, he says, that we have this tradition that the eldest will succeed on the throne. Vimala vamsa. This is one problem we have, that this is our tradition, that the eldest son becomes the king. And I can't share it with them. This is the first thing that I can't share with my brothers. The throne is not a shareable commodity. Only one could become the king. So then why is he afraid? I think he's afraid that becoming the leader is going to create a distance now between him and his brothers. And that's why he begins by describing, we were born together, we ate together, we slept together, we played together, everything was done together. But now, what's going to happen? I am the king, and even for my brothers, they will see me as king, and then
the intimacy of our relationship will be changed. For the first time, something is happening now that he's worried is going to affect the closeness, the shared nature, if I put it now. Would they now treat me as king and no longer as brother? Would the crown create a distance between me and my brothers now that I would be king? You have to admit that this is not a usual reaction to somebody who is ascending to power. And I think it's put there in their mind for that reason. This is unusual. Those who attain power usually rejoice in the fact that they would now be distinguished from everyone else, or be elevated above everyone else. But Ram is fearful that power will lead to distance, and the shared life that he had with his brothers would no longer be the same. So this is not normal, it's not typical. I don't think, for example, that King Charles worried about this when finally he became the king of England. I don't think that would be his reaction. How would this now affect my relationships with everyone else in my family? But even if we look to ancient times, it's still unusual, because we know historically about the rivalries among siblings for the throne, and sometimes the violence that accompanied such rivalries for power and for a kingdom. So this is extraordinary. And of course, Tulsidas wants to call attention to this. Ram's response, Ram is different. He's free from the greed for power. As a leader, he's not motivated by the greed for power, and does not really derive joy simply from the fact of exerting power over others. He values relationships. And in this case, the relationship with his siblings, and he's fearful that the throne will get in the way of this relationship. What I think we see here, even though, as he said, this is the tradition that the eldest will become the king, he never thought of himself as a competitor or as a rival to his brothers. Their relationship was not a relationship of competing with each other for power or rivalry. Becoming the king, as I said, was not a reason to look down upon his brothers. And he's concerned that this is a privilege that should not divide them. And I think we will see in the Ramayana how, what he does to maintain that relationship, not to allow power to divide his family. And Tulsidas adds, as he concludes these two verses that look into Ram's heart, he says that Prabhu Saprema Pachitani Suhai. I want you to see, if you have any doubts about the kind of person he is, look at his heart. He says, look at the fear that he's experienced. Prabhu Saprema Pachitani Suhai. That's a fear that is, he describes it as Saprema Pachitani, a fear that is born out of love. Sometimes fear can have many sources, but in this case, his fear has its roots in love. It's Saprema. It is a fear and anxiety born out of love. So Prabhu Saprema Pachitani Suhai. Harahu Bhagata Manake Kutilai. Please let this remove from your thinking any conclusion that Ram was greedy for the throne. Because when he learned that he's going to get the throne, his concern was for his family. How will this affect his relationship? You know, I think, personally, the best leaders in any role, whether it's a temple leadership, a community leadership, political leadership, the best leaders are those who don't want to be leaders. The best people to give power to is those who don't want power, those who have no wish for power. Those without the greed to lead will be the best leaders. And such people are very rare. Such leaders are very rare. The reluctant leader. Not that desire to be a leader is always coming from some place of corruption, but I think there is something to be said for the leader who is without agreed to become a leader. So in Ram's reaction to the announcement that he would be king, his mind immediately goes to family concerns, to the unity of his family. Immediately he cares about his family. And it is very clear, we're speaking of Ram, but we can, if we apply it to our own context, I think that the point to take, the point to extract is that a healthy family, a good family, is one in which family members do think about the impact of their choices, not only on themselves, but on other family members, on the rest of the family. How will this action, how will this choice affect the integrity, the well-being of the family? The opposite is indifference. The complete disregard for the consequences of one's choice on family. I don't care attitude. The I don't care attitude. It doesn't mean that families will not disagree, and even in the Raghu family there were disagreements. But because sometimes one has to make choices with which one's family might not always agree. But I think that one can disagree with care. There can be caring disagreements, and there can be uncaring disagreements. One can disagree with care, one can disagree without care. It is whether the disagreement is also saprema, which is a loving disagreement, a disagreement expressed in love, or whether it is not. So we can learn something from Ram, even as he never thought of himself as a rival or as a competitor to his brothers. We should not ever encourage rivalries in our own families. We do this especially when we compare one family member unfavorably with another, or we express or demonstrate affection in unequal forms. Such forms of parenting only create friction and divisions in families. Don't build the kind of healthy family that we see in this incident. So I think that while we don't have any direct evidence in the Ramayana, but I would say on the basis of Ram's response and the kind of relationship that he had with his brothers, that they were not raised to treat each other as rivals or or competitors. He would not respond in that way if he was raised to think that he was better than his brothers, that he was superior to his brothers. So here is a question: how do we know that Ram was sincere in the way in which Tulsidas describes him? How do we know that he was sincere in his concern for his family when he learned that he will be king, and he had this anxiety in his heart? How can we judge that, Ram was truly and sincerely afraid that this would fracture and divide himself from his brothers? Tulsidas tells us so, but is there any other evidence that he was sincere in his concern? I think that there is evidence, and we see the evidence very shortly after he learns about the promises made by his father to his stepmother, when he learns that he will lose the throne on the same day that he called to the throne. On the same day he learns that he may no longer have that throne, and he gives it up without resistance. He gives it up. He doesn't fight to hold on to it. He lets it go. And we know if he was not sincere, he would not hold on to that throne. If he was not sincere, he would hold on to that throne, never allow Bharat to be the king for 14 years. So, in other words, sincerity may be also judged by how willing one is to give up power. One's moral commitments are not only displayed in seeking to get power, but the willingness to also let it go when it is necessary for some principled position. I can also give it up. The ladies in the elderly ladies who in the palace of Dasarath, they were the wives of the priests. They were some senior women in the palace. They had a long and interesting discussion with Kaikeyi, just women, sitting to talk about what had happened. So they invited her to a conversation. Let's talk about Kaikeyi. Let's talk about what has happened and what's the challenge that is here before us. About her demands, these two special demands that she made, that Bharat be the king and Ram must leave and live the life of a wandering ascetic for 14 years. So they invite Kaikeyi for a discussion. And among the many things they say to him, he says that Bharatahi avasi dehu yuvaraja kanana kaha ram kara kaju. Bharatahi avasi dehu yuvaraja. Okay, Kaikeyi. Let Bharat be the king. If this is what you want, let Bharat be the king. Stick to this request. It's okay. Demand of the Dasarath that Yuvaraj, that his successor will be Bharat. Kanana kaha Rama kara kaju. But why? Why exile him? Why do you want to put him through this fire of 14 years of exile? Why don't you reduce it? It is the throne that you want. Let your son be the throne. Why are you insisting that Ram must be banished. And then they say something really interesting to her. These are all the women who have known him since he was a child. Nahi na Ramu Raju ke bhuke. We know Ram, bhuka, thirst. He has no thirst for this throne. Nahi na Rama Raja ke bhuke. Ram is not thirsty for the power of his throne. He has, if Ram has one thirst, they say, it's not the thirst for power, but if we may speak of him as having any kind of greed, it's not the greed for political power, it is dharmadhurina. He is always thirsty to do what is right. This is where his heart is, in doing what is right, not necessarily in gaining the power. So, why don't you let Bharat be the king? Gura griha basahu ramata jigehu nripasana asabardu saralehu. He will abandon the palace to allow Bharat to be the king. Why don't you let him go and live in his guru's home at least? Let him live. Let him live with his guru. But why do you send him into this exile? But what I found was particularly important there was the sentence that he is not greedy for power. His only concern is to do what is right. Dharma dhurina. This is where his focus is. Narajo. Naraja ke bhuke. No thirst to be the king, but he has a thirst always to do what is right and what is just. It is very clear that they all know Ram's nature. So this is the first point I want to make about what Ram can bring to us about family values. The consideration for the impact of choices on other family members. Now, as far as his exile is concerned, there is something also important that I want to lift up. When he talks about why he was so willing and so ready to give up this throne and allow Bharat to be the king, he gave many reasons. You find many different arguments in Ayodhya Kand. He saw it, for example, as a choice between truth and untruth. And he said as much, in his conversation with Sumantra, who was sent by his father to bring him back. As Dasarath was in deep grief when Ram left. So he sent his chief minister to see if he could bring him back, Sumantra, bring him back to us. And Ram there said to Sumantra in those famous lines, Dharmana dusara satya samana. Sumantra, there is no higher virtue than faithfulness to truth. Dharmana dusara satya samana. There's nothing equal to fidelity to truth. And he says, this is what, the tradition to which I belong has taught me. Agama, Nigama, Purana, Bhakana. This is what I have learned from study and from my teachers, that faithfulness to truth is the highest value. And now I have this I didn't choose this occasion to stand for truth. Mai so dharma sulabh karipava. That sulabha, easy. This has come to me now. I have an opportunity to stand for truth. And why should I not? Why should I not? This is what he said to Sumantra. I have the opportunity to demonstrate fidelity to truth. But other words, I didn't seek the throne. I didn't seek this exile also. Both came to me. And this exile is for me, it's a challenge of being faithful to Satya or to truth. But there is something also very personal about that decision, something that is very family-oriented. And this is what I want to put share some light on. Yes, he puts it in this abstract way that, it is a choice that he has to make for truth or untruth. But Ram was concerned about the moral reputation of his family. It was not simply, I must choose truth over untruth. I think in this instant, the integrity of his family was at stake. The moral credibility, if we put it in that way, the moral reputation of his family was at stake. His father, after all, was the leader, the king of Ayodhya, and the consequences would be terrible if he lost the trust of his people by his moral failure to keep his word. People took promises seriously. Promises given were promises kept in the context of the Ramayana. Because trust is so, what we see is trust is so vital to good human relationships, in families, in communities, in nations. Look, no human relationship will endure in the absence of trust. That's a simple fact. Few things destroy relationships like mistrust, like the loss of trust. Whether you're a political leader, you're a leader in your community, an elder in your community, or a father or mother. When you lose the trust of your children, or you lose the trust of your citizens, you are a leader in name only. So trust is vital. And Ram understood this, and he knew that the moral reputation of his family was at stake there. You know that beautiful line of Ramayana. If you don't know it, you should remember it tonight, but I think everyone here will remember just that one line. Raghu kul riti sada chali aayi, pran jai baru vachan na jai. Even Kaikeyi knew that, because these were her words. Raghu kul riti sada chali aayi. This family has kept the tradition. This family of Raghu has built this reputation over generations. This is the riti, this is the established tradition of this Raghu family. Pran jai baru vachan na jai. That they will give their lives, pran jai, but will not lose the trust, will not betray a promise. Baru vachan means the word, but would not be unfaithful to a word that is given, a pledge that is made, a promise that is made. Raghu kul riti sada chali aayi, pran jai baru vachan na jai. But they will not betray a promise or a commitment that is made, to sacrifice their lives first. And Ram did not want to do anything to damage this long-established tradition of commitment to virtue in his family. Because whatever you said, he knew that people would say, the king made a promise that he didn't keep. He understood himself as having an obligation to protect the moral standing of his family by his own actions. I think that from Ram, this is a point that we often don't give enough thought to. We think a lot when we raise our families about ensuring that they have everything that is needed for material well-being, for material success and achievement. We want to secure, and rightfully so, all that is necessary for them. But we don't think hard enough about building a tradition of fidelity to ethical values, ethical responsibilities, to develop children who are morally trustworthy and who exemplify high moral values. We don't work hard enough to secure that. So in the case of Ram, preserving the moral reputation of his family is so important that he was willing, and this is why the story continues to, the life of Ram continues to be told and to hold our attention. And we need to sometimes think anew about it, that for the sake of the moral reputation of his family, he gave up that throne. And not only gave up that throne, but entered into exile for 14 years. Why am I stressing this point about moral reputation in families? Because there's an interesting contrast in the Ramayana on the point of defending the moral reputation of one's family. So you know that Hanumanji was sent by Ram as an emissary, as a messenger to Ravana, to persuade him to return Sita. And Hanumanji made many arguments to Ravana, speaking about Ram as loving, Ram as caring, Ram as compassionate, return Sita and he would forgive you. And he made many arguments to him. He also spoke about the strength of Ram. But he tried to also make this family moral appeal to him. He said, look, I'm asking you to think of the family from which you came. And he invoked the name of Ravana's grandfather, Pulastya. Think of your family, Ravana. Remember, dekhao tumha nija kulahi bichari. I'm asking you to think today about your family. So Hanuman made that moral appeal to him, that family appeal. Dekhao tumha nija kulahi bichari. Rishi Pulasti jasu bimala mayanka. Your grandfather was like the full moon. He shone as his life was as shining and as brilliant as the full moon. And today, by your actions, you are putting a blemish. You are adding blemish, he told him. Tehi sasi mahujani ho kalanka. Today you are blemishing the reputation, the virtuous reputation of your family. He tried. Hanumanji knew that this was in that time. This was a powerful appeal. He thought that this may move this man. That if I invoked his family to him and reminded him, of his grandfather's legacy, that somehow I could reach his heart. For your family's sake, turn away. Seek peace with Ram. Return Sita. And his brother also, Vibhishan. They all came back to him on this point about family. Vibhishan also invoked the grandfather, Pulastya, and say, for his sake, Ravana, why don't you return Sita? But this had no effect. Unlike Ram, who chose to give up the throne and to accept exile for the high moral integrity and reputation of his family, Ram gave up a throne for the sake of his family, went into exile. But Ravana did not want to give up Sita to maintain the high reputation of his family. I will tell you a small incident that happened last time I was here in February. Why this is so important. So I went to look for some oranges one day. I realized it was orange season, and there were a lot of vendors who were selling oranges. So I was driving and looking to purchase some oranges, and at Siparia Road Junction, there was an elderly man. And I didn't know him, but he had some oranges on a small table. So I pulled next to him, and I came out of the car, and I asked him if the oranges were sweet. He said yes, the oranges were very sweet, and I trusted him. And we seem to have certain features that people easily see. Because I'm often mistaken for Suruj, sometimes by friendly people, sometimes by unfriendly people. I often think if I ever get beaten up in Trinidad, it will be because of mistaken identity. It will be because of mistaken identity. But if Ram can give up a throne for his family, perhaps I can take a few blows. For the sake of relationships. Anyway, this elderly man asks me, are you Rambachan? So often when I'm asked that question, I'm not sure. I try to read. I try to read if the intention is friendly or unfriendly. But I said, but it's an elderly man, so I probably could defend myself if there was an issue. So I said yes, and he said, well, who was your father? Was your father the Raj Rambachan? I said, yes, he was my father. I said, we've never met before. I'm so happy to meet you. And then he said, I worked for him as a young man. I worked for your father. And then he added, which is really what I want to say, he was kind to us. He added that sentence. Your father was kind to us. And that mattered so much to me to hear that from this elderly man, this is how he remembered my father. My father was a business contractor, but he said, your father was kind to us. And that my father left that reputation with his workers as a person who cared for them was a real gift to me from that man, a real blessing from him. Because my father died over 32 years ago, and he worked for him when he was young, and that's how he remembers. He remembered my father. And it deepened my own commitment that, that kind of moral integrity is what I should ensure that I also preserve in the community and in this nation. So, I could go on. I have much more contrasting examples to say, but I kept you listening to me for 1 hour, and I will stop. I will stop there. The others who have words to speak tonight, and thank you for your attentiveness, and I hope that I've opened your eyes a little bit to think about the Ramayana in a way in which how it might speak to us today, especially in our family, in our national context. Tomorrow night, I'll give a very different kind of lecture. I want to speak more about leadership in the Ramayana, Ram as a political leader, and how that model might be still speak to us relevantly today. But in keeping with Suruj's theme, I wanted to focus on family. So I'll now pass back to Padmi.
You didn't tell me what the theme was.
No, I didn't. And you never asked.
See? Minds think alike. mental contact.
Narayan Narayan Jai Jai Govinda Hare. Om Narayan Narayan Jai Jai Gopal Hare. Om Narayan Narayan Jai Jai Govinda Hare. Om Narayan Narayan Jai Jai Gopal Hare. Om Narayan Narayan Jai Jai Govinda Hare. Om Narayan Narayan Jai Jai Gopal Hare.
Narayan Narayan Jai Jai Govinda Hare. Narayan Narayan Jai Jai Gopal Hare.
Om Narayan Narayan Jai Jai Govinda Hare. Om Narayan Narayan Jai Jai Gopal Hare. Narayan Jai Jai Govinda Hare. Om Narayan Narayan Jai Jai Gopal Hare.
Om Narayan Narayan Jai Jai Govinda Hare. Om Narayan Narayan Jai Jai Gopal Hare.
Om Narayan Narayan Jai Jai Govinda Hare. Om Narayan Narayan Jai Jai Gopal Hare. Narayan Jai Jai Govinda Hare. Om Narayan Narayan Jai Jai Gopal Hare.
Om Narayan Narayan Jai Jai Govinda Hare. Om Narayan Narayan Jai Jai Gopal Hare.
Om Narayan Narayan Jai Jai Govinda 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 Hare.
Om Narayan Narayan Jai Jai Gopal Hare.
Om Narayan Narayan Jai Jai Gopal Hare.
Om Narayan Narayan Jai Jai Govinda 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 Hare.
Om Narayan Narayan Jai Jai Gopal Hare.
Om Narayan Narayan Jai Jai Gopal Hare.
Om Narayan Narayan Jai Jai Govinda Hare.
Om Narayan
हरे ओम नारायण नारायण जय जय गोविंद हरे ओम नारायण नारायण जय जय गोपाल हरे ओम नारायण नारायण जय जय गोविंद हरे ओम नारायण नारायण जय जय गोपाल हरे ओम नारायण नारायण जय जय गोविंद हरे ओम नारायण नारायण जय जय गोपाल हरे ओम नारायण नारायण जय जय गोविंद 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 हरे ओम नारायण नारायण जय जय गोपाल हरे ओम नारायण नारायण जय जय गोपाल हरे ओम नारायण नारायण जय जय गोविंद हरे ओम नारायण नारायण जय जय गोपाल हरे गोविंद हरे 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 जय जय गोपाल हरे ओम नारायण नारायण जय जय गोविंद हरे ओम नारायण नारायण जय जय गोपाल हरे ओम नारायण नारायण जय जय गोविंद हरे ओम नारायण नारायण जय जय गोपाल हरे ओम नारायण नारायण जय जय गोविंद हरे ओम नारायण नारायण जय जय गोपाल हरे ओम नारायण नारायण जय जय गोविंद हरे ओम नारायण नारायण जय जय गोपाल हरे ओम नारायण नारायण जय जय गोविंद हरे ओम नारायण नारायण जय जय गोपाल हरे ओम नारायण नारायण जय जय गोविंद हरे ओम नारायण नारायण जय जय गोपाल हरे
जय जय राम जानकी जीवन राम श्री राम जय जय राम जानकी जीवन राम श्री राम जय जय राम जानकी जीवन श्री राम जय जय राम जानकी जीवन पतित पावन राम हरे जय राघव सुंदर राम पतित पावन राम हरे जय राघव सुंदर दीनो धरना राम हरे जय मारुति सेवित राम दीनो धरना राघव सुंदर राम पतित पावन राम हरे जय राघव सुंदर राम दीनोद्धर राम हरे जय मारुति सेवित केशव हरि नारायण अच्युत केशव हरि नारायण अच्युत केशव हरि नारायण अच्युत केशव हरि नारायण भव भय हरना वंदित चरना 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 रघुकुल भूषण राजीव लोचन रघुकुल भूषण राजीव लोचन आत्मा रामा आनंद रमणा आत्मा रामा आनंद रमणा आत्मा रामा आनंद रमणा आत्मा रामा आनंद रमणा.
When Dad told me tonight that Auntie Indira was opting to attend at Avocat instead of Dattacharya, I thought how incredible, because she's the perfect person to speak tonight. So I relayed this to Dad, and he was brimming with excitement. Dad's association with the Sajivan family goes way beyond my existence. And I have clear memories, actually, of Auntie Indira and her family at all points. And strange enough, the family association extended when Isha came to Polony and Blah to do her in-service training last year. I asked Isha for Auntie's profile, and she sent her usual profile that speaks about her as a specialist consultant in competitiveness and sustainable development, that she holds a PhD at MSc and a BA in economics from UE, and several international specialized training diplomas, and also that she's a current president of the Trinidad and Tobago Economics Association and a former executive director of the Caribbean Center for Competitiveness. She's also an author because she published a book called Competitiveness Through Global Value Chains. But honestly, I think the best profile of Auntie Indira, I should have been worried, would be an introduction from personal level of our family. and of the affection with which Dad often speaks about your dad, Uncle Ramoon, and your mom, Auntie Chan, as well as your brother Surin and Auntie Rennie. He often speaks with gratitude about the hundreds of satsangs across the country where your dad and mom, accompanied by all their children, would go and set up a first-class sound system and did so always without accepting any remuneration. He said that his relationship with his family goes back 54 years ago, definitely before me. And this line I will give to Isha, and I'll send it to her, and I think it should go into your profile. He describes you as a bright, focused person with the courage to speak fearlessly despite the personal consequences. So can I please welcome Auntie Indira?
Namaste, Sitaram, Sairam, pleasant good night. I'm filled with so many emotions tonight. And in order to do what Ranjana has asked me to do, I have to engage in some storytelling. So bear with me. About 2 weeks ago, I called my brother Surin. I said, Surin, I'm so nostalgic for one of those satsangs. And I mean, this is just really uncanny. I'm so nostalgic for one of those satsangs. You know, when we would go, when satsang was not about organizations and rules, when it was just about singing from the heart and praising God. You know, Suruj and Bhuj, just singing. And I am so nostalgic for that. And he says, you know, me too. You know what? I'm going to reach out to Bhuj and find out when next they're doing something somewhere, and we will go to it. And then I think it was last week, out of the blues, in my WhatsApp, I get this invitation from Ranjana for Suruj's 75th birthday. I called Surin immediately. I said, you will not believe this. The universe seemed to be conspiring. Here is, and not just are we coming to hear the kirtan and the bhajans that I so desperately need to hear, but there's a bonus that Professor Anand Rambachan is also going to be there delivering a discourse. My God, Professor, tonight the years stripped away, and I was once again that 10-year-old little girl at the University of the West Indies, sitting down amongst intellectuals and taking in your discourse. I learned at 10 years old the answer to who am I? I am that which is known. And I understood it. And so when Ranjana then, so that was that, and we definitely we're coming to soak in divinity. And then about a few days ago, Ranjana messaged me again, Auntie, are you coming to Avocat? So I said yes, thinking she just wants to, know people who are coming numbers. Immediately after, will you speak about Dad? I was like, okay. I said, and I asked her, I said, are you sure that I am the right person? I mean, I know your father's walked the corridors of power, and I know he has so many people, probably much better positioned to do so. And I said, but you are his daughter, and if you think that I'm worthy of such, then the answer is yes. So I said yes. And since then to now, I have been on a journey through my childhood because there are memories I don't even have, because I was just too small, and my mom was telling me, being in satsang, and again the satsang, Suruj lifting me and putting me to sleep on his shoulders. I don't even remember that. So he's been in my life, basically, for forever. But in order to do this, Ranjana, I had to go and hold conclave with my father, because I couldn't just come here without knowing what his thoughts were. My father died in 1998. So I sat quietly and I reached out to him. I said, Father, Daddy, Suraj turned 75. I've been asked to speak. And what should I say? And he spoke to me. And Suraj, the biggest tribute that I could pay to you is that you were my father's friend. You were not just his friend, you were his brother. Because my father, to me, was Dashrath. He was the moral compass. A moral compass that he never wavered from. And if you were his friend, he called you his brother, then you were worthy. You were worthy. My father loved Suraj Rambachan. He was loyal to him to a fault. Because he got into trouble too over Suraj. He fell out with his biological brother on many occasions because nobody could say a bad word about Suraj Rambachan. He was loyal to a fault, my father. Or he could say, you know what, he real arrogant sometimes, you know, and he really feel too much. He could say it, but nobody dare say that to him. He would defend you. And he brought you into our lives, into the lives of his family, his children. And I know that my father, and this is an interesting relationship, okay? On the one hand, Suraj Rambachan, university professor, academic, and on the other hand, my father, a taxi driver, didn't even finish high school. And yet, their relationship and their bond was immeasurable. And that, to me, speaks to the manner of the man that is Suraj Rambachan. Because, again, that taxi driver was probably one of the few people who could say to Suraj, listen, you're talking nonsense. And he would stop and he would take note. My father, my mother were the people that he came to in his younger days when he needed personal advice. They couldn't give him academic advice, but when he needed personal, familial, when he needed advice on family matters, he came to Ramun and Chan. And he took their advice and he took their guidance. So tonight you celebrate 75 years. And for me to speak to you requires, as I said, that I walk through my childhood. I walk through that period when I was from primary school through high school and starting in university. You see, Professor Anand said, tonight is about gratitude. And in paying tribute to you, I must express my gratitude. I express my gratitude to you, or the gratitude of a young little country girl who maybe had some natural gifts of speech, who was therefore thrust very often into that role. But yours was a library that was open to me. I had open access to your library to come and do research to ensure that whatever I put out was of the highest standard. And when I wrote, you would often read what I wrote and give me feedback to ensure that it is even better. And Nandini, you will remember my many visits to your home when I had research to do. So in some ways, the person that I am, you contributed to. You contributed to my desire and my commitment to do whatever I do, to do it to the best of my ability, to never compromise on the standard to which I held myself and expected that others would hold of me. You didn't have to do that, but you did. And for that, I will always be grateful to you. People often said to me, when you speak in me, where does it come from? You don't have a script in front of you. It comes from preparation that you taught me. It was never enough to just get by. it was always necessary to go the extra mile. And for that, I am grateful. And very often, life is about living a legacy. And too often, we wait too long before we are concerned about that. But some people are blessed that they can be building legacy without even doing so deliberately. And therefore, I say to you, and I'm sure there are many others similar to me, whose lives you have impacted. And by impacting on their lives, you are ensuring that you leave a legacy. My mind went back to the satsangs when we were small. From the manicured lawns of Valsine to the earthen huts of Pinal. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Children write an exam, it didn't matter. My father would say, gotta go and pray. You had to pray and ask God to help you. You study enough. Suruj brought that into our lives because my father, as somebody who said, was concerned. He had his PA system. And we traveled the entire country. Right, Bush? The entire country. From hut to mansion. There was no discrimination. And I say all of these things, and I hope you read between the lines, because it is the manner of the man that celebrates his birthday today. It is the man of the man that befriended a taxi driver who was committed to him, who people like Bouge, who have stayed committed to you for life, and Robbie, I didn't even recognize you. I don't even know if you know me or recognize me because I was a little child. Yes. And all these years of doing this, you brought God into our lives. You brought God into my life, but you didn't bring God into my life in the way that is traditional. You brought God into my life in a discriminating manner. You taught me that, and it is in the way that Anand delivers his discourse. You taught me that the scriptures was not about the stories. The scriptures was about the lessons for life. And therefore, in my young days, whenever I had the opportunity to speak on any religious platform, that is the approach that I took. That is what you taught me. So finally, I asked my dad, I said, what do you think is Suruj's most significant accomplishment? I said, after he died, he went on to become Minister of Government. He served in quite a number of portfolios. What, Daddy, is the measure of this man? And he said to me that I should say to you that those things, those offices, were not what was and is your greatest contribution and your greatest legacy. He said, I should tell you that your greatest gift is your ability to use your voice to connect with people. It is the ability to bring God in the homes of people, whether it is a mansion or earthen hut. This is your greatest legacy. Your greatest legacy is that it mattered not the office or the seat that people held. God was for everyone. And he says that I should say to you that in these probably the most significant years of your life, that you should rededicate your life to community, to bring in God and spirituality back into the lives of individuals. And by that, bringing back God and morality and a moral compass of goodness to the lives of the people of the country. I hope that these few words resonate. I hope that I have done you justice, I end by saying, it is not all the time, as I grew older, that we shared the same beliefs. But I think that respect, and I hope that respect remained. And I say to you that I will always be grateful for the woman that I am, for the contribution that you made to me being who I am. Thank you, Sitaram Sairam.
I saw your dad smiling all the way.
We are fortunate to have with us tonight members of Dad's Aji's family. We have Auntie Oka here with us, who is well known as a former Speaker of the House. And we have Uncle Ralph, who's a politician, a thespian, a radio host, a teacher, and I'm sure we all read his very incisive columns in the Trinidad Express. He served as Minister of Foreign Affairs and Minister of Communication and Information Technology, but he also wrote several plays, the most successful being Cynthia's Sweetness. He starred in a number of movies, The Right and the Wrong, which I'm sure Dad will give you a story about Mukesh's son not knowing the song in the movie until we played it for him a couple years ago. And also in BIM, which was described by Bruce Paddington, he's a big person in film in Trinidad, as one of the most important films to be produced in Trinidad and Tobago. So I'd like Uncle Ralph to say a few words.
While Uncle Ralph goes to the podium, Ralph, I'll give you that little story because it's an interesting story. So Nitin Mukesh came to Trinidad. So we have this uncanny experiences. All these artists who come to Trinidad, they come to my home for dinner. So Nitin is sitting there, and we asked Nitin, do you know all the songs your father sang? He said, yes, I know all the songs my father sang. He said, you sure, Nitin? He said, yes, I know them. So he said, but there's a song that was done in Trinidad. And we told him about Ralph, and we told him about a song called The Right and the Wrong. Yeah. So Nitin immediately said, but I don't know this song. Where can I get this song? So we were prepared. And Nandi, sent by her uncle, brought a record player because we had it on a 45, I believe it was, nevertheless, and played it for him. That night, he took my son's tabla, went with the cassette back to Holiday Inn, learned the song, and performed it next day.
Wow.
When he went back to India, believe it or not, that song became very popular, and there was a CD of the best hits of Mukesh. But when they wrote The Right and the Wrong, they wrote R-I-T and W-R-O-N-G on the CD. And that's how that song became popular in India, because he discovered it in Trinidad. So you see, you have a great history there, Ralph.
Right, man. Lovely story there. Lovely story. Part of the family, I suppose. Ranjana, thank you very, very much. That's my niece, right? And my brother, my cousin, Anand, Professor Anand, was talking about family. And I must say that there is that feel here in this temple today. There is that feeling of family. I feel at one with everybody. I feel part of this great tradition from which we have come. And we all belong to that tradition. We all can imbibe in the beauty and the products of that tradition. And that binds us as a family. So, and even though you may not be of the Hindu tradition, if you adhere to truth, if you adhere to God, if you adhere to beauty, you belong to that family. You belong to that tradition. And there is that definite feel in this temple tonight, and in the music that was played, the lovely bhajans that was sung from the very start, Every time I sat down there and Suruj was singing, I began to feel that. And of course, the wonderful discourse that was given by Professor Rambachan. Wonderful indeed, part of that very rich tradition to which we all belong, and as human beings generally, to those who seek God, seek truth, seek beauty, seek goodness, and seek all the time to improve yourself. You belong to that tradition, that culture of the civilized family, always constantly on the journey of refinement. So that's where I want to, locate today's experience for me. It was a rich experience, and I want to thank you for inviting me. I thank Ranjana for giving me the opportunity to say a few words. I didn't know that I was going to be called upon to speak, but I feel very privileged because I am indeed part of the family here today, but I am indeed part of the family, the Rambachan family. My grandfather and Suruj's grandmother were brother and sister. So he's my dear close cousin, as is the professor. And we go back a long way in Naparima College and everything else. And we wouldn't go into all of that today. But I want to simply say to Anand that I really enjoyed your discourse. Thank you very, very much. You were always an intense young man in Naparima College. We chatted. I was in upper sixth and you were in the lower sixth at that time. And you displayed the talent for poetry and for deep thought. And you demonstrated that today. As Indira was saying, you brought the scripture, you made it real, it applicable. And it was very, very rich, very understandable, very enlightening, and I want to thank you for that. My brother Suruj, thank you very much for all that you have done for our society. You have been an inspiration from the word go. I knew you at Naparima College, always a live wire, but at the university I also encountered you there at UWI. You were a live wire in so many ways, always active, always participating, and everybody knows that about Suruj. He has made an enormous contribution to life in Trinidad and Tobago, in Aboukatier, and elsewhere, everywhere he has been. In the religion, in the politics, and in community. There's no doubt about that. So I'm sure, and the thing is, he's not the retiring type. I'm sure he's going to continue. I'm sure he's going to continue to work. I don't even think you even have to tell him to work. I think he's going to continue. He'll find something creative to do, something to participate in life, and through which he can continue to make its contribution. Thank all of you very, very much. I wouldn't keep you much longer, but it's wonderful here to be with you. As I say, the feeling of family was pervasive throughout. Thank you, and God bless you all.
So, Indira will dedicate this song. This was one of your father's songs. He loved this song very much. I dedicate this song to him. मैया की ममता तजे तज बाबा का प्यार ग्वाल माल की मित्रता गोपियन की मनहार तज से सब परिवार को तज मुरली की तान अपनों से मुख मोर के मथुरा चले रे शाम नजर रहे मोरे श्याम रे, सुना सुना लागे सूरज का धाम, गोकुल को छोड़ चले घनश्याम। बोल सके ना घर का पंछी, असवन से भरे नैना, असवन से भरे नैना। आजा कान्हा ना जा कान्हा, ना जा कान्हा, ना जा कान्हा, आजा कान्हा ना जा कान्हा, भूखे रे पिंजरे के मैना। नदिया रोए गिरिवर रोए, ले कान्हा के नाम रे, सुना सुना लागे नीरज का धाम, गोकुल को छोड़ चले रे घनश्याम। सुना सुना लागे नीरज का धाम, गोकुल को छोड़ चले रे घनश्याम। प्रेम दीवानी राधा रानी, भर नैनन में पानी हो। प्रेम दीवानी राधा रानी, भर नैना में पानी। सुबह सुबह कहे हाय रे कान्हा, हाय रे कान्हा, हाय रे कान्हा। सुबह कहे हाय रे कान्हा, तूने बिरहा की पीरन जानी। कैसे कटेगी तुम बिन साथी, जीवन की अब शाम रे, सुना सुना लागे नीरज का धाम, गोकुल को छोड़ चले रे घनश्याम। सुना सुना लागे नीरज का धाम, गोकुल को छोड़ चले रे घनश्याम।
Before I close, I just wanted to ask the Member of Parliament, Lakram Bodo, to say a few words.
Sitaram, Namaste, good evening, my brothers and sisters. I do apologize for reaching a bit late, but Suruj Rambachan of all people will understand because I just came from the parliament, and I'll start with that. Because when I became a new member of parliament in 2015, Suruj Rambachan was one of my mentors. I had the privilege of sitting in the second row just behind, and of course I was privy to his methods, of engaging the government, and I've learned not as much as I would like to, Suruj, but I'm getting there. But I thought I would start there, and Suruj, as I speak, I want to also bring greetings from your colleagues. I know you would have invited a lot of your colleagues, and hopefully you'll see some of them tomorrow at the second event. But they do send their wishes as indeed our political leader. But 75 not out is a nice innings, it's a good innings. It's a great innings. I mean, Balrup himself here, was an excellent cricketer, and to cross 50 is difficult, and of course to reach 75 not out is wonderful. So I just want to wish you all the best Some people will say at 75 you achieve everything in life, but knowing Suraj Rambachan, I don't think so. I think life has just begun for him. I think he has a lot more to achieve and to accomplish in this life. And I'm sure as we go forward, that he'll be able to do that. So of course, it all started with the Kirtan Mandali and Balrup. You know what I'm speaking of. It's how many years now? Over 50 years? Close 58. It's a long time. So I'm 65, so that's, I mean, I've been familiar with, I'm familiar for 58 years, with that organization. And of course, that in itself, is a tribute to the great skill and organization and ability, Suruj, and of course the team that has stayed with you and your leadership qualities. I also had the privilege, when we were in government, as chairman of the Southwest RHA, to work with Minister Suraj Rambachan. And, I can attest to the fact of his leadership in the several ministries in which he commanded, but most importantly, his ability to execute and to deliver. Of course, he's a management consultant, a true one, not just on paper as we have many others, but he has that ability to execute and to deliver and to plan. So Suraj, I regard you as an elder brother. I want to wish you all the best as you go forward. I want to put in my request to be invited for the 80th, God willing, if I'm here, because I know you will be here. And, may you continue to be blessed. May you and your family continue to be blessed. And I wish you a happy birthday. Sitaram, namaste. Thank you very much.
So we would like to thank everyone who assisted in the first night of this 2-night event. First thanks as always to Uncle Booj and Auntie Uma and the executive of the Atmagyan Mandir. You're always there and ready when we have family events, whether here or otherwise, and we really appreciate that support and love. Previously, I mentioned relationships spanning generations with Auntie Indira, and there are two families here who we all know have spanned generations, the Rupchans and the Ramlochans, and the relationships keep spanning through generations. You would have heard Ayush all night. So we'd like to thank Prashant for being here to do sound tonight together with Ayush. He's a mini sound master. Thank you to Uncle Robbie. And also, I'd like to extend thanks to Uncle Vishnu, who sent his team here from Balrups and Vishtrak to do recording. We appreciate everyone's attendance here tonight.
So let us stand for Arti. And Gita, we are going to dedicate this bhajan you love, wishing you a happy birthday. कि जो केसरी के लाल मेरा छोटा साया काम, कि जो केसरी के लाल मेरा छोटा साया काम, मेरे राम जी के देना हो जय सिया राम, मेरे राम जी को देना हो जय सिया राम। कि जो केसरी के लाल मेरा छोटा साया काम, कि जो केसरी के लाल मेरा छोटा साया काम, मेरी राम जी के देना हो जय सिया राम, मेरी राम जी को देना हो जय सिया राम। मनी राम संग जपता तुम्हारा सदा नाम, मनी राम संग जपता तुम्हारा सदा नाम, अपने राम जी को देना हो जय सिया राम, अपने राम जी को देना हो जय सिया राम। कि जो केसरी के लाल मेरा छोटा साया काम, दीनहीन से सहारे महावीर तुम हो, दीनहीन से सहारे महावीर तुम हो, अपने भक्तों की जगाते तकदीर तुम हो, अपने भक्तों की जगाते तकदीर तुम हो, अपने भक्तों की जगाते तकदीर तुम हो। हर दुखिया का हाथ तुम लेते तो थाम, हर दुखिया का हाथ तुम लेते तो थाम। मेरा राम जी के देना हो जय सिया राम, मेरा राम जी को देना हो जय सिया राम। ओ किसो केसरी के लाल मेरा छोटा साया काम, किसो केसरी के लाल मेरा छोटा साया काम। महाबाली महायोध्या महासंत तुम हो, महाबाली महायोध्या महासंत तुम हो। लाते सूखे हुए भागों में बसंत तुम हो, लाते सूखे हुए भागों में बसंत तुम हो। तेरे भक्ति के आत्मा को मिलत या राम, तेरे भक्ति के आत्मा को मिलत या राम। मेरी राम जी के देना हो जय सिया राम, मेरी राम जी से देना हो जय सिया। ओ की जो केसरी के लाल मेरा छोटा साया काम। पूरी तरह की हमारी हर आश करना, पूरी तरह ही हमारी हर आश करना। बाबा भक्तों की कभी ना निराश करना, बाबा भक्तों को कभी ना निराश करना, बाबा भक्तों को कभी ना निराश करना। दोनों चरण तुम्हारे हैं लखा कर सुखदाम, दोनों चरण तुम्हारे हैं लखा के सुखदाम। मेरी राम जी से देना हो जय सिया राम। जो केसरी के लाल मेरा छोटा साया काम, जो केसरी के लाल मेरा छोटा साया काम, जो केसरी के लाल मेरा छोटा साया काम। मेरी राम जी को देना हो जय सिया राम, मेरी राम जी को देना हो जय सिया राम। ओ मनी राम संग जपता तुम्हारा सदा नाम, मनी राम संग जपता तुम्हारा सदा नाम। अपने राम जी को देना हो जय सिया राम, अपने राम जी को देना हो जय सिया राम। ओ की जो केसरी के लाल मेरा छोटा साया काम, की जो केसरी के लाल मेरा छोटा साया काम, की जो केसरी के लाल मेरा छोटा साया काम।
नसेन्द्रियैर्वा बुद्ध्यात्मना वा प्रकृतेर्स्वभावात् करोमि यद्यत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयामि। त्वमेव माता च पिता त्वमेव, त्वमेव बन्धु च सखा त्वमेव, त्वमेव विद्या द्रविणं त्वमेव, त्वमेव सर्वं मम देव देवा। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति। सियापति रामचंद्र की जय, पवन सुत हनुमान की जय।
Thank you very much.
Kuldevalaya Pitritirtha, a shrine for our ancestors.
Villa Santosh, 3-in-suite bedroom villa in Silver Palms, Tobago, fully air-conditioned, indoor and outdoor cooking, secured parking, pool. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, or call or WhatsApp 1-868-327-0357.
Springland Gardens, quality homes for a lifetime of happiness. Homes starting at 1.8 million with 3 ensuite bedrooms, fully air-conditioned, partially furnished. Find us on Facebook or Instagram or call us at 1-868-792-1155.